In progress.
Conversations with God, Book 3 by Neil Donald Walsh. My concern was more for the message than for me. I was concerned that the message would get besmirched. If you're concerned about the message, then get the message out. Do not worry about besmirching it. The message will speak for itself. Remember what I have taught you. It is not nearly so important how well a message is received as how well it is sent. Remember this also. You teach what you have to learn. It is not necessary to have achieved perfection to speak of perfection. It is not necessary to have achieved mastery to speak of mastery. It's not necessary to achieve the highest level of evolution to speak of the highest level of evolution. Seek only to be genuine. Strive to be sincere. If you wish to undo all the damage you imagine yourself to have done, demonstrate that in your actions. Do what you can do, then let it rest. That's easier said than done. Sometimes I feel so guilty. Guilt and fear are the only enemies of man. Guilt is important. It tells us when we've done wrong. There is no such thing as wrong. There is only that which does not serve you, does not speak the truth about who you are and who you choose to be. Guilt is the feeling that keeps you stuck in who you are not. But guilt is the feeling that at least lets us notice we've gone astray. Awareness is what you're talking about, not guilt. I tell you this, guilt is a blight upon the land, the poison that kills the plant. You will not grow through guilt, but only shrivel and die. Awareness is what you seek, but awareness is not guilt, and love is not fear. Fear and guilt, I say again, are your only enemies. Love and awareness are your true friends. Yet, do not confuse the one with the other, for one will kill you while the other gives you life. I have everything I choose to have right now, including a complete understanding of God. Yet I will not experience that I have it until I know that I do. Precisely, you've got it perfectly. But how can I know that I do until I experience that I do? How can I know something I haven't experienced yet? Wasn't there a great mind who said all knowing is experience? He was wrong. Knowing does not follow experience. It precedes it. In this, half the world has it backwards. So you mean that I have the answers to the second part of my question? I just don't know that I do? Exactly. Yet if I don't know that I do, then I don't. That's the paradox, yes. I don't get it, except I do. Indeed. So how can I get to this place of knowing that I know something if I don't know that I know? To know that you know, act as if you do. Now, in book 1, we talked about the be, do, have paradigm and how most people have it reversed. Most people believe if they have a thing, more time, money, love, whatever, then they can finally do a thing, write a book, take up a hobby, go on vacation, buy a home, undertake a relationship, which will allow them to be a thing, happy, peaceful, content, or in love. In actuality, they are reversing the be, do, have paradigm in the universe as it really is, as opposed to how you think it is. Having this does not produce beingness, but the other way around. First, you be the thing called happy, or knowing, or wise, or compassion, or whatever. Then you start doing things from this place of beingness, and soon you discover that what you are doing winds up bringing you the thing you've always wanted to have. The way to set this creative process, and that's what this is, the process of creation, into motion, is to look at what it is you want to have, ask yourself, what you think you would be if you had that which you want. In this way, you reverse the way you've been using the be, do, have paradigm. In actuality, set it right and work with rather than against creative force of the universe. In book 1, you went over this. I have everything I choose to have right now, including a complete understanding of God, yet I will not experience that I have it until I know that I do. Delete that. That was repetitive. The person who is being happy seems to have time to do everything that's really important, all the money that's needed, and enough love to last a lifetime. He finds he has everything he needs to be happy by being happy to begin with. Exactly, deciding ahead of time what you choose to be produces that in your experience. To be or not to be, that is the question. Precisely. Happiness is a state of mind, and like all states of mind, it reproduces itself in physical form. This is a statement for a refrigerator magnet. All states of mind reproduce themselves. But how can you be happy to begin with, or be anything you're seeking to be, more prosperous, for instance, or more loved, if you're not having what you think you need in order to be that? Act as if you are, and you will draw it to you. What you act as if you are, you become. In other words, fake it until you make it. Something like that. Yes, only you can't really be faking. Your actions have to be sincere. Everything you do out of sincerity, or the benefit of the action is lost. This is not because I won't reward you. God does not reward and punish, as you know, but natural law requires the body, mind, and spirit to be united in thought, word, and action for the process of creation to work. You cannot fool your mind. If you are insincere, your mind knows it, and that's that. You've just ended any chance that your mind can help you in the creative process. You can, of course, create without your mind. It's just a great deal more difficult. You can ask your body to do something your mind doesn't believe. And if your body does it long enough, your mind will begin to let go of its former thought about that and create a new thought. Once you have a new thought about a thing, you're well on your way to creating it as a permanent aspect of your being, rather than something you're just acting out. This is doing things the hard way. And even if such instances, the action must be sincere. Unlike what you can do with people, you cannot manipulate the universe. So here we have a very delicate balance. The body does something which the mind does not believe, yet the mind must add the ingredient of sincerity to the body's action for it to work. How can the mind add sincerity when it does not believe in what the body is doing? By taking out the selfish element of personal gain. How? The mind may not be able to sincerely agree that the actions of the body can bring you that which you choose, but the mind seems very clear that God will bring good things through you to another. Therefore, whatever you choose for yourself, give to another. Would you say that again? Please, of course, whatever you choose for yourself, give to another. If you choose to be happy, cause another to be happy. If you choose to be prosperous, cause another to be prosper. If you choose more love in your life, cause another to have more love in theirs. Do this sincerely, not because you seek personal gain, but because you really want the other person to have that. And all the things you give away will come to you. Why is that so? How does that work? The very act of you giving something away causes you to experience that you have it to give away. Since you cannot give to another something you do not have, your mind comes to a new conclusion, a new thought about you, namely that you must have this, or you could not be giving it away. This new thought then becomes your experience. You stop being that. And once you stop being a thing, you've engaged the gears of the most powerful creation machine in the universe, your divine self. Whatever you are being, you are creating. The circle is complete, and you will create more and more of that in your life. It will be made manifest in your physical experience. This is the greatest secret of life. It is what book 1 and book 2 were written to tell you. It was all there in far greater detail. I see here is that both genders think they are handling the thankless tasks while the other is having all the fun. Men resent the women who are attempting to take back some of their power because men say they'll be damned if they'll do all that they do for the culture and not at least have the power it takes to do it. Women resent men keeping all the power, saying they'll be damned if they'll continue doing for the culture what they do and still remain powerless. You've analyzed it correctly, and both men and women are damned to repeat their own mistakes in an endless cycle of self-inflicted misery until one side or the other gets that life is not about power, but about strength. And until both see that it's not about separation, but unity. For it is in the unity that inner strength exists, and in the separation that it dissipates, leaving one feeling weak and powerless and hence struggling for power. I tell you this, heal the rift between you, end the illusion of separation, and you shall be delivered back to your fine, true power, the power to do anything, the power to be anything, the power to have anything. For the power to create is derived from the inner strength that is produced through unity. This is true of the relationship between you and your God, just as it is remarkably true of the relationship between you and your fellow humans. Stop thinking of yourself as separate, and all the true power that comes from the inner strength of unity is yours as a worldwide society and as an individual part of that whole to wield as you wish. Yet remember this, power comes from inner strength. Inner strength does not come from raw power. And this, most of the world has it backwards. Power without inner strength is an illusion. Inner strength without unity is a lie that has not served the race, but that has nevertheless deeply embodied itself into your race consciousness. For you think that inner strength comes from individuality and from separateness, and that is simply not so. Separation from God and from each other is the cause of all your dysfunction and suffering. Still, separation continues to masquerade as strength, and your politics, your economics, and even your religions have perpetuated this lie. This lie is the genesis of all wars, all the class struggles that lead to war, of all animosity between races and genders, and all the power struggles that lead to animosity, of personal trials and tribulations. Mix what you call the sacred with the sacrilegious, for until you see your altars as the ultimate place for love and your bedrooms as the ultimate place for worship, you see nothing at all. You think sex is separate from God? I tell you this, I am in your bedroom every night. So go ahead, mix what you call the profane and the profound so that you can see that there is no difference and experience all as one. Then when you continue to evolve, you will not see yourself as letting go of sex, but simply enjoying it at a higher level. For all of life is XEX, synergistic energy exchange. And if you understand this about XEX, you will understand this about everything in life, even the end of life, what you call death. At the moment of your death, you will not see yourself as letting go of life, but simply enjoying it at a higher level. When at last you see that there is no separation in God's world, there is nothing which is not God, then at last will you let go of this invention of man, which you have called Satan. Can we talk about this death business for a minute? You said this third book was going to be about higher truths, about universal truths. Well, through all the conversation we've had, we haven't talked that much about death. And what happens after that? Let's do that now. Let's get to that. Fine. What do you want to know? What happens when you die? What do you choose to have happen? You mean that what happens, whatever we choose to have happen? Do you think that just because you died, you stop creating? I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. Fair enough. You do know incidentally, but I see you have begun, which is great. Everything's gone according to plan. When you die, you do not stop creating. Is that definitive enough for you? Yes. Good. Now, the reason you do not stop creating when you die is that you don't ever die. You cannot, for you are life itself, and life cannot not be life. Therefore, you cannot die. So at the moment of your death, what happens is you go on living. That is why so many people who have died do not believe it, because they do not have the experience of being dead. On the contrary, they feel, because they are very much alive, so there's confusion. The self may see the body lying there all crumbled up, not moving, yet the self is suddenly moving all over the place. It has the experience often of literally flying all over the room, then of being everywhere in the space all at once. And when it desires a particular point of view, it suddenly finds itself experiencing that. If the soul, the name we will now give to the self, wonders, gee, why is my body not moving? It will find itself right there, hovering right over the body, watching the stillness curiously. If somebody enters the room and the soul thinks, who is that? Immediately the soul is in front of or next to that person. Thus, in a very short time, the soul learns that it can go anywhere with the speed of its thought. A feeling of incredible freedom and lightness overtakes the soul, and it usually takes a little while for the entity to get used to all this bouncing around with every thought. If the person had children and should think of those children, immediately the soul is in the presence of those children, wherever they are. Thus, the soul learns that not only can it be wherever it wants with the speed of its thought, it can be in 2 places at once, or 3 or 5. It can exist, observe, and conduct activities in these places simultaneously without difficulty or confusion. It can exist, observe, and conduct activities in these places simultaneously without difficulty or confusion. Then it can rejoin itself, returning to one place again simply by refocusing. The soul remembers in the next life what it would have been well to remember in this life, that all effect is created by thought, and that manifestation result of intention. What is it like in the afterlife? Really, tell me all of it. There are some things which cannot be revealed, not because I did not choose to, but because in your present condition and your present level of understanding, you would not be able to conceive of what is being told to you. Still, there is more which can be said. As we discussed earlier, you may do one of 3 things in what you call the afterlife. Just as in the life you are now experiencing, you may submit to the creations of your uncontrolled thoughts. You may create your experience consciously out of choice, or you may experience the collective consciousness of all that is. This last experience is called reunification or rejoining the one. Should you take the first path, most of you will not do so for very long, unlike the way you behave on earth. This is because in the moment you don't like what you're experiencing, you will choose to create a new and more pleasant reality, which you will do by simply stopping your negative thoughts. Because of this, you will never experience the hell of which you are so afraid unless you choose to. Even in that case, you will be happy in that you will be getting what you want. Most people, more people than you know, are happy being miserable. So you will keep experiencing it until you don't choose to anymore. For most of you, the moment you even begin to experience it, you will move away from it and create something new. You can eliminate the hell in your life on earth exactly the same way. Should you take the second path and consciously create your experience, you will no doubt experience going straight to heaven, because this is what anyone who's freely choosing and who believes in heaven will create. If you not believe in heaven, you will not experience whatever you wish to experience. And the moment you understand that, your wishes will get better and better, and then you will believe in heaven. Should you take the third path and submit to the creations of the collective consciousness, you will move more quickly into total acceptance, total peace, total joy, total awareness, and total love, for that is the consciousness of the collective. Then you will become one with the oneness, and there will be nothing except that, all that is. So what I want to know is, what is psychic power? You all have what you call psychic power. It is truly a sixth sense, and you all have a sixth sense about things. Psychic power is simply the ability to step out of your limited experience into a broader view, to step back, to feel more than what the limited individual you have imagined yourself to be would feel, to know more than he or she would know. It is the ability to tap into the larger truth all around you, to sense a different energy. How does one develop this ability? Develop is a good word. It's sort of like muscles. You all have them, yet some of you choose to develop them, whereas in others, they remain undeveloped and far less useful. To develop your psychic muscle, you must exercise it, use it every day, all the time. Right now, the muscle is there, but it's small, it's weak, it's underused. So you'll get an intuitive hit now and then, but you won't act on it. You'll get a hunch about something, but you'll ignore it. You'll have a dream or an inspiration, but you'll let it pass, paying it scant attention. Thank goodness you did pay attention to the hit you had about this book, or you wouldn't be reading these words now. You were starting to get so caught up in the process that you forgot it was just a process. And so you called out to me. You asked me to come to you, to help you understand, to show you the divine truth, to reveal to you the greatest secret, the secret you've been kept from yourself, the secret of who you are. Now I've done so. Now, once again, you have been caused to remember. Will it matter? Will it change how you act tomorrow? Will it cause you to see things differently tonight? Will you now heal the hurts of the wounded, quell the anxieties of the fearful, meet the needs of the impoverished, celebrate the magnificent of the accomplished, and see the vision of me everywhere? Will this latest remembrance of truth change your life and allow you to change the lives of others? Or will you return to forgetfulness, fall back into selfishness, revisit and reside again in the smallness of who you imagine yourself to be before this awakening? Which will it be? Have given you the tools with which to create the grandest reality. You've simply chosen not to use them, or to be more accurate, you have misused them. The tools I am referring to here are the three tools of creation. We've talked about them much in the ongoing dialogue. Do you know what they are? Thought, word, and action. Good. You've remembered. I once inspired Mildred Hinckley, a spiritual teacher of mine, to say, you were born with the creative power of the universe at the tip of your tongue. That is a statement of astonishing implications, as is this truth from another of my teachers. As thou hast believed, so be it done unto you. These two statements have to do with thought and word. Another of my teachers had this to say about action. The beginning is God, the end is action. Action is God creating or God experienced. You said that in book one. Book one was brought through by you, my son, just as all great teachings have been inspired by me and brought through human forms. Those who allow such inspirations to move them and who fearlessly share them publicly are my greatest teachers. I'm not sure that I would put myself in that category. The words you have been inspired to share have touched millions. Millions, my son. They have been translated into 24 languages. They have reached around the world. By what measure would you grant the status of great teacher? By the measure of one's actions, not one's words. That is a very wise answer. And my actions in this lifetime do not speak well of me and certainly do not qualify me as a teacher. You've just written off half the teachers who have ever lived. What are you saying? I'm saying what I said through Judith Schupman in A Course in Miracles, SCHUEMAN. You teach what you have to learn. Do you believe that you must be demonstrating perfection before you can teach how to reach it? And while you have made your share what you would call mistakes, more than my share, you have also shown great courage in bringing this conversation with me forward. I choose to teach others never to deny themselves. Good. And what else do you choose to teach? I choose to teach others never to deny you, God, because to deny you is to deny themselves, and to deny themselves is to deny you. Good. And do you choose to teach this haphazardly, almost by chance, or do you choose to teach this grandly, as if on purpose? I choose to teach it on purpose, grandly, as my mother did. My mother did teach me never to deny myself. She taught it to me every day. She was the greatest encourager I ever had. She taught me to have faith in myself and in you. I should be such a teacher. I choose to be such a teacher of all the great wisdoms. Okay, once more from the top. Who you are is love. What love is unlimited, eternal, and free. Therefore, that is what you are. That is the nature of who you are. You are unlimited, eternal, and free by nature. Now, any artificial, social, moral, religious, philosophical, economic, or political construction which violates or subordinates your nature is an impingement upon your very self, and you will rail against it. What do you suppose gave birth to your own country? Was it not, give me liberty, give me death? Well, you've given up that liberty in your country, and you've given it up in your lives. All for the same thing, security. You are so afraid to live, so afraid of life itself, that you've given up the very nature of your being in trade for security. The institution you call marriage is your attempt to create security, as is the institution called government. Actually, they are both forms of the same thing, artificial social constructions designed to govern each other's behavior. Good grief, I never looked at it like that. I always thought that marriage was the ultimate announcement of love. As you have imagined it, yes, but not as you have constructed it. As you have constructed it, it is the ultimate announcement of fear. If marriage allowed you to be unlimited, eternal, and free in your love, then it would be the ultimate announcement of love. As things are now, you become married in an effort to lower your love to the level of a promise or a guarantee. Marriage is an effort to guarantee that what is so now will always be so. If you didn't need this guarantee, you would not need marriage. And how do you use this guarantee? First, as a means of creating security instead of creating security from that which is inside of you. And second, if that security is not forever forthcoming, as a means of punishing each other for the marriage promise which has been broken, can now form the basis of the lawsuit which has been opened. You have thus found marriage very useful, even if it is for the wrong reason. Marriage is also your attempt to guarantee that the feelings you have for each other you will never have for another, or at least that you will never express them with another in the same way, namely sexually. Finally, marriage, as you have constructed it, is a way of saying this relationship is special. I hold this relationship above all others. What's wrong with that? Nothing. It's not a question of right or wrong. Right and wrong do not exist. It's a question of what serves you, of what recreates you in the next grandest image of who you really are. If who you really are is a being who says this one relationship, this single one right over here is more special than any other, then your construction of marriage allows you to do that perfectly. Yet you might find it interesting to notice that almost no one who is or has been recognized as a spiritual master is married. Yeah, because masters are celibate. They don't have sex. No, it's because masters cannot truthfully make the statement that your present construction of marriage seeks to make, that one person is more special to them than another. This is not a statement that a master makes, and it is not a statement that God makes. The fact that your marriage vows, as you presently construct them, have you making a very ungodly statement. It is the height of irony that you feel this is the holiest of holy promises, for it is a promise that God would never make. Yet, in order to justify your human fears, you've imagined a God who acts just like you. Therefore, you speak of God's promise to his chosen people and of covenants between God and those God loves in a special way. You cannot stand the thought of a God who loves no one in a way which is more special than any other. And so you create fictions about a God who only loves certain people for certain reasons. And you call these fictions religions. I call them blasphemies. Any thought that God loves one more than another is false. And any ritual which asks you to make the same statement is not a sacrament, but sacrilege. Take the question with which you started off here. You asked, is there life on other planets? I answered, of course. I said, of course, because the evidence is so obvious. It is so obvious that I'm surprised you even asked the question. Yet this is how a person can be separate from his own truth, by looking truth in the eye so squarely he can't miss it, and then denying what he sees. Denial is the mechanism here, and nowhere is denial more insidious than in self-denial. You've spent a lifetime denying who and what you really are. It would be sad enough if you limited your denials to less personal things, such as your depletion of the ozone layer, your rape of old growth forests, your horrible treatment of your young. But you are not content with denying all that you see around you. You won't rest until you deny all that you see within you as well. You see goodness and compassion within you, but you deny it. You see wisdom within you, but you deny it. You see infinite possibility within you, but you deny it. And you see and experience God within you, yet you deny it. You deny that I am within you, that I am you. And in this you deny me my rightful and obvious place. I have not and do not deny you. You admit that you are God? Well, I wouldn't say that. Exactly. And I tell you this, before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. But by your very thoughts will you deny me. By your very words will you deny me. By your very actions will you deny me. You know in your heart that I am with you, in you, that we are one, yet you deny me. Oh, some of you say I exist right, but away from you, way out there somewhere. And the further away you imagine me to be, the further away you step from your own truth. As with so much else in life, from depletion of your planet's natural resources to the abuse of children in so many of your homes, you see it, but you don't believe it. But why? Why do we see and yet not believe? Because you are so caught up in the illusion. You are so deep in the illusion that you cannot see past it. Indeed, you must not for the illusions to continue. This is the divine dichotomy. You must deny me if you are to continue seeking to become me, and that is what you are wanting to do. Yet you cannot become what you already are, so denial is important. It's a useful tool. until it is not anymore. The master knows that denial is for those who are choosing to have the illusion continue. Acceptance is for those who choose now for the illusion to end. Acceptance, proclamations, demonstration. Those are the 3 steps to God. Acceptance of who and what you really are. Proclamation of it for the world to hear, and demonstration in every way. Self-proclamation is always followed by the demonstration. You will demonstrate yourself to be God. To now demonstrate what you think of yourself. Your whole life is a demonstration of that. Yet with this demonstration will come your greatest challenge. For the moment you stop denying yourself, others will deny you. The moment you proclaim your oneness with God, others will proclaim your partnership with Satan. The moment you speak the highest, others will say you speak the lowest. Blasphemy. So far, what the human race has been doing on this planet is not very smart. In fact, throughout this dialogue, you've described our species as primitive. Ever since you first made that remark, I've been wondering what it must be like living in a non-primitive culture. You say there are many such societies and cultures in the universe. Yes, how many? A great many. Dozens, hundreds, thousands. Thousands. There are thousands of advanced civilizations, yes. And there are other cultures more primitive than yours. What else marks a society as either primitive or advanced? The degree to which it implements its own highest understandings. This is different from what you believe. You believe that a society should be called primitive advanced based on how high its understandings are. But what good are the highest understandings if you not implement them? The next point I made in my response to you in book 1 is that you react the way you do to the words and actions of others because you've forgotten who you are. But I say that is all right. That is part of the growth process, as part of evolution. Then I make a very important statement. All during your growth process, you must work at the level at which you are, the level of understanding, level of willingness, the level of remembrance. Everything else I've said there is to be taken within that context. I've even said on page 129, I assume for the purpose of this discussion that you are still seeking to realize, make real who you truly are. Within the context of a society of beings who do not remember who you really are, the responses I gave you in book 1 stand as given, but you didn't ask me those questions here. You asked me here to describe the highest evolved societies of the universe. Not only with regard to the subject at hand, but with regard to all the other topics we will cover here, it will be beneficial if you do not see these descriptions of other cultures as criticisms of your own. There are no judgments here, nor will there be any condemnation if you do things differently, react differently than beings who are more evolved. And so what I have said here is that the highly evolved beings of the universe would never kill another sentient being in anger. First, they would not experience any anger. Second, they would not end the corporal experience of any other being without the being's permission. And third, to answer specifically your specific inquiry, they would never feel attacked even from outside their own society or species, because to feel attacked, you have to feel that someone's taking something from you, your life, your loved ones, your freedom, your property, your possessions, something. And a highly evolved being would never experience that, because a highly evolved being would simply give you whatever you thought you needed so badly that you were prepared to take it by force, even if it cost the evolved being its corporal life, because the evolved being knows she can create everything all over again. She would quite naturally give it all away to a lesser being who did not know this. Highly evolved beings are therefore not martyrs, nor are they victims of anyone's despotism. Yet it goes beyond this. Not only is the high evolved being clear that he can create everything all over again, he's also clear that he doesn't have to. He's clear that he needed none of it to be happy or to survive. He understands that he requires nothing exterior to himself, and that the himself, which he is, has nothing to do with anything physical. Lesser evolved beings and races are not always clear about this. Finally, the highly evolved being understands that she and her attackers are one. She sees the attackers as a wounded part of herself. Her function in that circumstance is to heal all wounds so that the all-in-one can again know itself as it really is. Giving away all that is, all that she has would be Giving away all that she has would be like giving yourself an aspirin. Whoa, what a concept. What an understanding. But I need to go back to something you said earlier. You said that highly evolved beings, let's abbreviate that as HEBs, H-E-Bs from here on. It's a long name to have to use over and over again. Good. Well, you said that the HEBs would never end the corporal experience of another being without the being's permission. That's right. But why would one being give another being permission to end its physical life? There can be any number of reasons. It might offer itself as food, for instance, or to serve some other necessity like stopping a war. This must be why even in our own cultures, there are those who would not kill any animal for food or hide without asking the spirit of that being for permission. Yes, that is the way of your Native Americans who would not even pick a flower, herb, or plant without having this communication. All of your indigenous cultures do the same. Interestingly, those are the tribes and cultures that you call primitive. Oh man, are you telling me I can't even pick a radish without asking if it's okay? You can do anything you choose to do. You ask me what Hebes would do. So Native Americans are highly evolved beings. As with all races and species, some are and some are not. It's an individual thing. As a culture, though, they have reached a very high level. The cultural myths which inform much of their experience are very elevated. But you have forced them to mix their cultural myths with your own. Some Hebe societies, beings live forever, or as long as they choose to remain in corporal form. So in Hebe societies, individual beings are usually around to experience the long-term consequences of their actions. How do they manage to stay alive so long? Of course, they are never not alive any more than you are, but I know what you mean. You mean with the body. Yes. How do they manage to stay with their bodies for so long? Why is this possible? Well, first, because they don't pollute their air, their water, and their land. They do not put chemicals into the ground, for instance, which are then taken up by plants and animals and brought into the body upon consumption of those plants and animals. A Hebe, in fact, would never consume an animal, much less fill the ground, and the plants which the animals eat with chemicals, then fill the animal itself with chemicals and then consume it. A Hebe would correctly assess such practice to be suicidal. So Hebes do not pollute their environment, their atmosphere, and their own corporal bodies as humans do. Your bodies are magnificent creations made to last infinitely longer than you allow them to. Hebes also exhibit different psychological behaviors that equally prolong life, such as a Hebe never worries and wouldn't even understand the human concept of worry or stress. Neither would a Hebe hate or feel rage or jealousy or panic. Therefore, the Hebe does not produce those biochemical reactions. There are several guiding principles of your culture which produce your behaviors. As I said earlier, one of your most basic ones is survival of the fittest. This might be called your second guiding principle. It underlies everything your society has created, its economics, politics, religions, its education, social structures. Yet, to a highly evolved being, the principle itself is an oxymoron. It is self-contradicting. Since the first guiding principle of Hebe is we are all one, the one is not fit until the all is fit. Survival of the fittest is therefore impossible since the fittest is not fit until it is. Are you following this? Yes, we call it communism. On your planet, you have rejected out of hand any system which does not allow for the advancement of one being at the expense of another. If a system of governance or economics requires an attempt at equitable distribution to all of the benefits created by all with the resources belonging to all, you have said that system of governance violates the natural order. Yet in highly evolved cultures, the natural order is equitable sharing. Even if a person or group has done nothing to deserve it, even if there has been no contribution to the common good, even if they are evil, the common good is life. If you are alive, you are contributing to the common good. It is very difficult for a spirit to be in physical form. To agree to take such a form is, in one sense, a great sacrifice, yet one that is necessary and even enjoyed if the all is to know itself experientially and to recreate itself anew in the next grandest version of the greatest vision it ever held about who it is. So I have explained it, as I have already explained, there is only one soul, one being, one essence. Some of you call this God. This single essence individuates itself as everything in the universe. In other words, all that is. This includes all the sentient beings, or what you have chosen to call souls. So God is every soul that is now, ever was, and ever will be. So God is a collective. That's the word I choose because it comes closest in your language to describing how things are. Not a single awesome being, but a collective. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Think outside the box. God is both a single awesome being, which is a collective of individualized parts. Good, very good. And why did the collective come to earth? To express itself in physicality, to know itself in its own experience, to be God, as I've already explained in detail in book 1. Human insistence on believing in the separation rather than the unity of all things is what has created 90% of the misery in your lives, the sadness in your history, and the impotence of your previous efforts to make things better for everyone. If you would change these two elements of your consciousness, everything would shift. How? I want to do that, but I just don't know how. Give me a tool, not just platitudes. Good. Platitudes. Good. That's fair. So here's a tool. Act as if you were all one. Just start acting that way tomorrow. See everyone as you, just having a difficult time. See everyone as you, just wanting a fair chance. See everyone as you, just having a different experience. Try it. Just go around tomorrow and try it. See everyone through new eyes. Then start acting as if there's enough. If you had enough money, enough love, enough time, what would you do differently? Would you share more openly, freely, equitably? That's interesting because we're doing exactly that with our natural resources and being criticized by ecologists for it. I mean, we're acting as if there's enough. What's really interesting is that you act as if the things which you think benefit you are in short supply. So you watch your supply of that very carefully, often even hoarding those things, that you play fast and loose with your environment, natural resources, and ecology. So it can only be assumed that you do not think the environment, natural resources, and your ecology benefits you, or that we're acting as if there's enough. But you aren't. If you were, you would share these resources more equitably. Yet right now, 1/5 of the world's people are using 4/5 of the world's resources, and you show no signs of changing the equation. There is enough for everybody if you would stop thoughtlessly squandering all of it on the privileged few. If all people use resources wisely, you would use less than you do with a few people using them unwisely. Use the resources, but don't abuse them. That's all the ecologists are saying. To summarize, the model for life in a highly evolved society, beings live in clusters of what you would call small intentional communities. These clusters are not further organized into cities, states, and nations, but each interacts with the others on a co-equal basis. There are no governments as you would understand them, and no laws. There are councils or conclaves, usually of elders, and there are what could best be translated into your language as mutual agreements. These have been reduced to a triangular code: awareness, honesty, responsibility. Highly evolved beings have decided long ago that this is how they choose to live together. They've made this choice based not on a moral structure or a spiritual revelation that some other being or group has brought forth, but rather on a simple observation: what is so and what works. Whoa, wow, I got it, good. Now know these, there are 3 basic wisdoms that run through the entire dialogue. These are: 1, we are all one. 2, there's enough. 3, there's nothing we have to do. If you decided that we are all one, you would cease treating each other the way you do. If you decided that there's enough, you would share everything with everyone. If you decided there's nothing we have to do, you would stop trying to use doing this to solve your problems, but rather move to and come from a state of being which would cause your experience of those problems to disappear and the conditions themselves to thus evaporate. There's nothing I have to have, there's nothing I have to do, and there's nothing I have to be except exactly what I'm being right now. Remember this always and make it your mantra. This does not mean that having and doing will be eliminated from your life. It means that your experience yourself, having or doing, will spring from your being, not lead you to it. When you come from happiness, you do certain things because you are happy, as opposed to the old paradigm in which you did things that you hoped would make you happy. When you come from wisdom, you do certain things because you're wise, not because you're trying to get to wisdom. When you come from love, you do certain things because you are love, not because you want to have love. Everything changes, everything turns around when you come from being rather than seeking to be. You cannot do your way to being. Whether you are trying to be happy, to be wise, to be love, or be God, you cannot get there by doing it. Yet, it is true, you will be doing wonderful things once you get there. Here's the divine dichotomy. The way you get there is to be there. Just be where you choose to get. It's that simple. There's nothing you have to do. You want to be happy, be happy. You want to be wise, be wise. You want to be loved, be loved. That is who you are in any event. You are my beloved. Oh, I just lost my breath. You have just such a wonderful way of putting things. It is the truth that is eloquent. Truth has elegance that startles the heart to its own reawakening. That is what these conversations with God have done. They have touched the heart of the human race and reawakened it. Now they lead you at a critical question. It is a question all of humanity must ask. Can and will you create a new cultural story? Can and will you devise a new first cultural myth upon which all other myths are based?